Sorry. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to episode 184 of the Oscar Wank Media Podcast. As per usual, I am your host, Kris Lipscomb. Joining me on this week's podcast is the soundboard man, Kev. Hello, Kev.
Hello to you.
Returning from various medical issues is Lewis Gaston. You feeling better, Lewis?
No, my leg's still fucked.
Oh, beyond that?
But it's been fucked for months, so.
Oh, that's fine. Then it's basically a standard level at this point. And finally,
hello, by the way,
the consummate professional, Peter Chapman. Say hello, Peter.
It's me.
He's back.
Hiya.
It's Pete.
But more than that, it's Chris's birthday.
Yes, it is. It is my birthday.
Wait for it.
But because of that, and because based on the prelude to this podcast, I might need it. I've got this bottle of cider. Listen. You should get it. Oh, can you hear that? Do you hear the little fizz? Lovely.
Yeah, but you were still talking when you did it, so it's
lovely.
Tricky. I think we got it. Cider, is it?
Recorder leg.
Okay.
It is.
Recorder leg.
I'd also like to point out.
Oh, sorry.
You got there just before I did.
It was in the cold fridge, and it's come out into
as opposed to the
but
it's come
as
out,
opposed to a broken fridge.
It's come out. It's so warm that the amount of condensation that's formed in the bottle, the labels have just completely peeled off it, which is actually just makes it awkward to hold. If anything,
You've peeled
So
it
now
off.
it's like
We all know
bootleg
what happens
knowledge.
when you peel bottle labels off.
What does happen?
A genie comes out and
oh sweet,
says you're
that sounds
sexually
optimal.
depraved, and then goes back in the bottle, and then you drink the drink, and that's it.
So not much really.
That
Every
does
time.
happen to everyone else, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've
But
never
yeah,
peeled a
given that instead of on my birthday being nice to me, you seem to have doubled down on your normal behaviour.
No, what it is, right, is that we're so excited to have Peter back on. We've fallen into our old ways. And he's a bad influence, I think, is probably what it's...
No, you were the worst when Peter Willington is on. You both show off when Peter
You guys know
Willington's
that
on.
when I'm not here, you still record this.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Your bad behaviour in my absence is a matter of record.
Yeah.
But Peter's come
But
back.
have you
means
listened to
that
it? That's
we
the
can,
question.
We can regress.
No, you are genuinely the worst when Peter Willington is here. You just play up for the whole episode.
But he's such
Just
a
wanna
fun
hear
guy
that
to
laugh.
be around. Yeah.
It's a good point. That's a fair
It
reason.
is an amazing laugh.
Anyway,
Mind you, unfortunately, it was just before we started recording, but I got Chris's proper laugh out just before we started by rolling a D20.
you did, and I just at that point I was like, it's just not called a podcast. Fuck it, just give up. Anyway, Twitter hellos. We have several.
Twitter hellos. Can't just do the question time one with Twitter, can you? That doesn't work.
That's cheating, really.
Just do like
Lewis, you got anything for us?
Tweet. Just a tweet or something. Like that.
Tweet's good, yeah.
Disney.
Let me see. Craig Hattle says hello. He says, "Hey guys."
All right.
Is he new?
No, that's Chill Houses, but he's changed his Twitter handle.
AKA fridge.
Stuart H51 says, "Hi guys."
Is he new?
No, that's Hayes, isn't it? Stuart Hayes.
Stuart Hattle.
No, that's wasn't that Chill Houses?
Oh, I don't know. No, that's.
I only asked a simple
That's
question.
Craig,
Everything's
we
falling
got
apart.
we got Stuart Hattle and Craig Hattle, so I assume they're brothers because Hattle is not a common surname.
Neither's
Well, good day to you both.
Pasky says happy birthday,
think I remember their
which I'm
Australian.
counting as a hey. I'm counting that.
That might be to me, though.
It's not your. It's not your birthday.
No, it'd be wrong, but is it specifically addressed to you?
But then no one else. Germanos did not say hello. Germanos asked questions, but did not say hello. As always, that's just rude.
Rude.
I feel his
Adam Guest as
enthusiasm
well.
for us is waning.
He asked 3 questions, so.
Oh right, okay.
But Adam Guest, no hello. Rude again. Rude.
Very rude.
Just rude.
Very rude.
I talked to you today in Slack, Adam. Genuinely talked to him today in Slack, and now being rude to me. What a dick.
I still don't like this Slack thing. Just sounds wrong.
I've started using Slack.
Have you at work?
Yeah, just between me and my little teammates.
Anyway, time for the news.
Which button's that then? This one?
You could label them or something.
Correct button.
Thanks.
I just like that you like to guess every week. You're like, I could take
I don't
steps.
know why that information doesn't stick in my mind.
But you're also like, I could take steps to rectify this. It's probably
Yeah,
fine.
but then if I do that, if I label the buttons, then like when I want to use it as like a drum machine, then I'll get confused. I'll be like, no, I want a kick drum, but this one says new, so that can't be the kick drum.
I like that your brain can't deal with like written information that conflicts.
No,
You're like, this is different. No.
very linear in my approach to everything.
So first Twitter news. The Nintendo
Hang on a minute.
company.
Twitter news.
No, first bit of news.
Oh.
Nintendo says, Nintendo doesn't say. Reports suggest that Nintendo is going to bring the NX, which is the new console that they talked about earlier in the year at, I believe, their shareholder presentation. By the way, it's rumored to be coming mid-2016 release, with the manufacturer Foxconn leaking that it is currently being worked on.
Let me guess. Will there be a Zelda?
There probably will be a Zelda.
Super Mario?
Probably.
Mario Kart?
Will there be a
Probably.
virtual reality headset?
I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so it looks like it's kind of a little bit sooner than expected, mostly because the Wii U is not doing anything.
The Wii U's doing shit.
Yeah.
9.5 million worldwide sales.
Yeah, it's not great.
Dreadful.
Not great. But on the other hand, did you see the
It's
numbers?
more things than I've sold.
Amusingly, though, did you see the numbers for the Xbox One in Japan the other week?
Oh yeah,
Where-
they get
where
below 100.
it's selling it's selling in double digits now. You're like, how? I mean, I know that Japanese people don't like it, but there's a lot of people who aren't Japanese in Japan.
Not that many.
More than 6.
That is true.
Yes, more than 6. I think we can assume that.
I would estimate there's probably at least several 100,000 at a minimum. So yeah, you think some of them would want them, but apparently not. Apparently, like, nah, I'm good. To
Just
be
'cause
honest,
if they get one, they get shunned by their Japanese
it's
friends.
true. Very true. Yeah, so it's unusual to see a company coming up so quickly. But if the Wii U is doing badly, it does make sense for them to do it. But on the other hand, I kind of feel like is rushing it the right solution? Is being like, just get another fucking console out there, it'll be fine.
Maybe they just want to be the first next-gen console all the time. Wasn't the Wii...
The Wii was, and the
first
Wii U, yeah,
this-gen
but they were
console?
just also massively underpowered because they
The Wii wasn't. The
Oh,
Wii
was it
came
not?
out on the same day as the PlayStation 3.
Oh, okay. The Wii
And
U,
the Xbox 360 was out for like 18 months.
but the
before
Wii
that
U
one.
was the first one of this generation, but also hugely underpowered.
It was the first one of this generation, but it was powered like the last generation.
Yep. They're basically just staying one step behind. But on the other hand, if they release it next year, then maybe they can actually get like people to port games onto it, because if they can get it out at like a comparable level to the PS4 and Xbox One, they're still at a point in the cycle where like they can try and get themselves back into sync with the hardware cycle.
I don't know.
Is that-
I don't
is
think
that what
that's
the
something
NX is?
Nintendo wants.
I don't think it is what Nintendo wants, but I also think it might be what Nintendo needs to some extent. Not to get in perfect sync with it, but to be at a level that is sort of similar, rather than miles and miles behind.
I think that the NX, there's been some sort of rumours behind the scenes that the NX is going to lean to, like there was all those rumours about the Android operating system being on it. And they've refuted that. But I think that there are still lingering rumours that it's going to have some sort of link to mobile stuff. I think personally, the way Nintendo's gone, it's a good opportunity for them to go down that path that some people sort of talked about with the Wii U before it was released, where they have a home console, but it has a portable console that you can take away from the base station and play it on the train and stuff, and just bring it back and then plug it into this home console, and you get a more powerful thing on your TV. I think rather than an opportunity for Nintendo to sync up with what Sony and Microsoft are currently doing, and by all like analysts agree, probably won't be doing in 10 years' time. I think Nintendo have a chance to make a move in the other direction. And then in 10 years' time, Sony and Microsoft will be catching up with them.
All right. I can see
Because
that
I just think that like the PlayStation 5 is by no means a certainty.
no,
the home
streaming
consoles
services are growing.
Coming to their last legs when you can play.
But-
like, for example, when Sony released the PlayStation Vita and it was already less powerful than the latest iPhone.
But I do think something you have to consider as well, though, on the other hand, is although it looks like they're coming to the end, like we're edging towards VR, and I don't think streaming services are going to work particularly well with VR if VR becomes the thing that takes off.
No, well, I think that's kind of the big hope of the console manufacturers is VR and AR, because streaming, it doesn't provide the bandwidth yet.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's just the latency. Like You can kind of get with.
But that's what I mean. There's too much to get down.
Yeah, but no, but it's
Like,
but it's not the bandwidth.
With non VR, like you can deal with like latency.
You can deal with
that's
like a
kind
few,
of not noticeable.
Yeah, you can deal with like a few hundred. Like it's not ideal, but you can deal with like 100, 200 milliseconds of lag.
It's like a direct feed into your brain, and it's
yeah,
latent.
you
You're just going, no, that's not how the world works.
Yeah,
and then you're just sick everywhere.
yeah, pretty much. Pretty much that is exactly what will happen. Because if you tilt your head, and you already get like a tiny bit of lag on the Oculus when you do this.
It's like being really drunk.
But then if you do that with like the round trip time to a remote server, that's going to be fucking awful.
Yeah.
Like you will just be really sick if that happens. Like it will just kill VR dead. So I
wonder
think
how long till somebody makes like a drunk simulator.
That must exist. Surely. Surely. That's such an obvious one to
can
go for.
they can cross your eyes at will.
Yes. Oh, that'd be amazing.
Horrible.
Right, next bit. Do we think it's going to come next year? Quickly.
Nah.
The
I reckon year after.
Yeah.
I think the end of next year. I think they'll release it like the end of November next year.
Yeah, because this is saying mid 2016 release, but I think it is like they want the consoles ready for mid 2016, so they have them stockpiled, and then they can get them into distribution channels. They want to release it in mid 2016 next year. Because I would imagine. Also, imagine if they come out at E3 next year and be like, "Hey guys, our new console was out in November."
Yeah, well, I think there's a case maybe for them launching a little bit earlier, possibly in Japan, and then launching in the West just before Christmas.
But on the other hand, it is Nintendo, so they no longer give a shit about how like traditional games PR is meant to work.
Yeah, it could be literally anything at this stage.
Yeah,
yeah, it really could.
They're like, we don't care we don't care what you say we're meant to do. Here is just a Muppet who's going to announce it.
We've strapped our console prototype to a goat's back, and we've sent it on a round the world journey. So when it gets back, that's when we'll release the game.
Yeah, exactly. I don't. Okay, fine. If that's how you're doing this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess really powerful Mario. It's gonna be great. Last week
I did see a mod that somebody had done in the Unreal 4 engine, like Mario with Unreal 4. There's like kind of Mario 64 done in Unreal 4.
That'd be pretty great.
It was pretty cool.
On last week's podcast, we talked about the issues that Batman Arkham Knight has been having on PC, which was so significant that Warner were forced to remove it from sale, and also point people who bought it via Steam to the Steam refunds page, because they can't do it themselves. But this week, interesting news has come to the front that suggests that Warner Brothers were in fact aware of the significant PC issues, having been notified multiple times by their QA department. And this was a story that leaked to Kotaku from unnamed sources who were supposedly QAing the game.
That's pretty bad.
There are other rumblings that corroborate this story. Like,
I don't really know how you could not know.
Yeah, exactly. Also, yeah, basic logic suggests they fucking knew.
Did somebody play the game on PC? Yes.
There's no certification process on PC.
Yeah, but
you can release what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
But Steam do something, but it's very light.
But it suggests that it's like either no one played it on PC, or they played it on like exactly one PC rig that it had been optimized for, and they were like, "No, don't bother trying it on anything else. It works here, therefore it is obviously fine."
But here's the other thing, right? The other side of that is that it's really fucking hard to second guess every configuration of PC hardware that there might be out there.
That is absolutely true. However, it should not be broken on anything that isn't a top end Nvidia. Yeah,
and you should probably have like a multitude of test PCs, just like across the spectrum.
Yeah,
just to give it a go.
I think because with PC, you kind of, not in a good way, but you kind of expect to an extent that some people are going to have hiccups with it. You don't expect basically half the player base to be like, this doesn't fucking work. More than half probably. But just be like, this don't work. This clearly does not work. So
I think it's I think that you're perfectly right. It's a balancing act because you simply can't cater for every setup on PC.
You can't, but you should.
But by the same token, you should. I'm sure there is a contingency. I'm sure that big companies have like a percentage that they don't mind failing on.
Yeah, but they probably don't mind if it's something like 1%. But
the other point to make in this is that it didn't really have a big impact on the amount of refunds that Steam issued.
Did not? That's interesting.
No, people whined and moaned and complained because the game was fucking broken and they had a right to whine and moan and complain, but they didn't refund the game.
Weird.
Not in mass numbers anyway.
That's
so
interesting.
Waited for it to be patched rather than...
Yeah. So, the next
'Cause
game,
all I would do is I would-
releases is going to be broken.
I would
We'll
refund
fix
it.
later.
Yeah, I'd refund it. Like personally, if I was in that situation, I would refund it and then wait for reviews of like the fixed version and then buy it again.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Statistics have shown today that the positive reviews are now outweighing negative reviews since the patch.
Well, that's the
For
other thing I was going to say
first time
is you
since
do,
nice.
because you do get like 2 weeks as well, don't you? I think it is on Steam to refund it. So maybe people are just waiting for that sort of that period to elapse, and then they're going to see what state it's in as they get towards their. So maybe like because it's been out like a week now, so maybe next week we'll suddenly see that Steam refund is going to spike hugely if the game is not fixed to the extent that people want it to be.
Well, I think it is now. I think they patched it and it's fixed most of the major problems.
Yeah, but they've also said
sort of
there's still
recognised the other problems
there's
that
still
they're
like a
working
fuckload of stuff to fix. It's like it's kind of in a state where it's not actively broken. It's not in a state where it is good.
Well, for what
It's
worth,
my understanding.
I am currently playing on PC on a high-end NVIDIA graphics card, and it's perfect.
But it was always kind of fine on NVIDIA. It was AMD where it was busted.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, they basically
The
went.
real question is it as good as Shadow of Mordor?
Well, Kev, as always, what does Metacritic say?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
That's how you
I
judge
would open
things.
Chrome to check, but I don't want to destroy my PC in the process.
Oh, well, someone else can look it out for you.
I'll
Or
check.
if
I've
you
got
if you not
Safari.
if you not got a phone,
Yeah, but I put it to the side. Otherwise, I'll just sit silently like what Lewis is doing and play on my phone.
that's true. Lewis is
I
definitely
imagine.
doing that. Lewis, are you just playing on your phone?
No, I'm just looking. I'm not playing on it. I'm looking on it.
Okay.
I often know I'm not gonna try and wade in on something. I have no.
I was
It's
really
reasonable.
trying to troll you with Shadow of Mordor, and there's nothing. It's quite
Oh
disappointing.
no, I didn't even hear that.
Do you want to? so you're not paying attention then?
No.
The Metascore for Shadow of Mordor on PC is 84. That's a good score.
Well, very good
Bollocks.
score.
Although it is lower than Oddworld New and Tasty. The Metascore for Batman.
I wonder why.
Can we do
I wonder why you'd
Arkham
mention
Knight.
that. like-
The Metascore for Batman Arkham Knight is 62.
Oh,
What, on
PC.
PC.
Pretty
Yeah.
shit.
I'm
But
guessing
I
that's
do-
dragged down significantly by all of the.
yeah, it's dragged down by the fact it
reviews.
doesn't fucking work.
Yeah.
So there you have it, Batman,
it's-
not as good as Shadow of Mordor.
Or Oddworld,
And
apparently.
neither of them are as good as Oddworld New and
It's
Tasty.
it's strange that you would mention that, Peter.
That's what the internet
just,
says.
Just out of the blue that you'd bring
That's
that.
just facts that
just a-
you
just
can
a-
see on Metacritic.
It's just a random game you've picked, right?
Statistics don't lie.
Yeah. It's just you were like, oh, Oddworld, that's a game I've heard of and I'm in no way affiliated with. Let's promote that.
Yeah, it's not my job to promote that game at all.
It's
Game
funny
of game.
because we'll get to that. Right, The Last Guardian. Basically, this is a quick bit of news. It turns out if you bitch and moan enough, stuff happens because people continually ask about The Last Guardian as the reason Sony didn't just cancel it.
Well, I'm always fucking moaning and nobody gives me anything.
Pretty much. My assumption here is because they went.
Yeah, but you're casting your moaning net too wide.
Ah.
You've got to have a very specific moan for a
exactly.
very long time.
But my assumption here kind of is that like Sony just went, oh shit, people are still paying attention. We can't fucking cancel this.
Yeah,
Let's
they
wait-
haven't looked away yet.
Let's wait and see if they
Just
stop.
hoping.
Please stop paying attention. Oh, for fuck's sake, it's E3 and they're still paying attention. Jesus Christ. All right, just here, we'll have to fucking make it.
Yeah, it's like Shenmue theory. People
Yeah.
keep fucking asking. The only way to shut them up is to actually say we'll do it.
Yeah.
Why
Ju-
wouldn't you?
and
ask
also-
for Shenmue?
Also, just say you'll do it. Lewis, we haven't talked to you about Shenmue 3.
I know. I'm so excited.
I've actually never played a Shenmue game.
Oh, my favorite.
Neither have I.
That's
I don't
my
even know
favourite-
what genre Shenmue fits
that's my
into.
favourite-
no,
everybody.
same.
This
I
joke
think
is
it's like
just,
a match 3, isn't it?
It's come full circle on you, really. At this point, Lewis, you were like, I'm safe. Joke about
Yeah,
Shenmue 3.
and now it's coming out. I'm like, shit. What's going to happen? I have to actually act like I know about this thing.
People will be
Yeah.
expecting to hear your thoughts
Yeah.
as soon as it's out.
It's a weird.
Shenmue expert in residence.
It's
He's always talking about it. He must know loads about it.
it's a
Who do
weird.
you think your favourite
from what I
character
understand,
is,
it's
would
like
you say?
it's a very odd JRPG.
It's like an open world
JRPG,
adventure game.
know exactly what they are. JPEGs.
no Japanese role playing game,
Oh, I see. That's a bit racist.
kind of kind of like Final Fantasy, but not.
No, not really.
It's kind of like
It's got that sort
What's
of
a good way
progression
of
stuff
doing
in it,
it?
but
What's
it's
a
kind
good
of an
way of
open
describing
world
it?
action game as well.
it would be like.
Yeah, you're right, Pete. Pete.
Imagine if they made a game about your life, basically, and how tedious
About
your
my life.
Or, but about like the average person's life and how
I'm not Japanese.
but how kind of generally tedious it is, and you do the same things kind of day after day. You have to go to work and shit like that. And imagine that was a game,
And that's
Second
what
Life.
Shenmue is.
kind
Yeah,
of.
like
All
GTA
this
4.
time, and no one's actually bothered to tell me that.
It's
I'm going to find a better game.
it's kind of It's kind of like if you did all the bits of GTA that are like making money, but you also weren't a criminal.
What's the point?
Yeah. Actually, I think that's a good way of describing it, right? Like GTA,
Like a job
but
simulator.
GTA, but you're not allowed to be a criminal. But then also other stuff happens, and you have to help find their parents. But also you have a job and like a cat and stuff.
Kind of.
That's not the
I know
sort of
there-
game that I expected it to be.
There is fighting. It's like a fighting game, like a 3D Streets of Rage with
There's
like upgrade mechanics and.
realistically there's
shit like
a
that.
lot going on in Shenmue.
Yeah,
just
it's
will
got
say that.
arcades as well. You could go to the arcade. And
It's
play
fucking
arcade games.
mental. Like Jesus, that game is weird.
What was that game where you were a ninja and you had a dog?
I don't know. Let's talk about Batman. It's time for what we
Ninja
played.
Dog.
It's time for what we
Definitely,
played.
like-
It's time for what we played. Did it? What we
Okay.
did? Whatever. Come on, press the button.
What were the things that we have done this week?
Done. Time to talk about fucking Batman. Fucking Batman's pretty awesome, right?
Well,
wouldn't know I've been playing
Metacritic gives it
Shenmue.
a pretty low score.
Only on PC.
Yeah,
Peter,
it's actually got very high score on PlayStation 4.
Peter, what are your thoughts on Batman?
I think it's probably the second best Arkham game.
After Asylum,
Yes,
incorrect. Asylum is not that good.
Asylum is fucking brilliant. Take that back.
Asylum is great, but it's also a completely different game from all the other Arkham games.
Yes, I know, and they got worse.
I don't think they got worse. I think they just
I
got
like
different.
City better than Asylum.
They just
I think City was good, but I've liked how refined and tight.
look.
Asylum was.
Here's what I will say about Arkham Asylum. That my personal thing towards Arkham Asylum is it is a good game, and it is also the one that is most like playing through a Batman comic. Like the story
Yeah.
I
in
kind of
Arkham,
liked its constrained non-open
Yeah.
worldness.
the story, but the story in Asylum is the story that would appear in a Batman comic. The story in the others is not really like the open world stuff. No, because you don't get the bit in Batman comics where he goes and does a side quest for half an hour.
No, you don't.
It
More's
would,
the
It's
pity.
quite focused.
it would be very odd if that happened. If it's like, go chase Joker, but first I need to solve these riddles.
First, I need to nip to the shops in the Batmobile to pick up some dinner.
Batmobile's shit, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is it?
Lewis, thoughts on the Batmobile?
Fucking amazing.
I don't like the handling.
I love it.
I
think
don't
the whole
mind the
game
handling.
is amazing.
I think the game overall is really, really good.
It's my favourite Batman game.
I think it is fabulous.
And I love the Batmobile.
I just don't use it. I fly everywhere.
Yeah,
He's
I
got
fly
that
most of the
awesome
places, but
like boost thing on the grappling hook now, where you can boost even higher.
yeah, but if you do that with the Batmobile,
yeah, you can boost out
between
the
that,
Batmobile.
the thing
Yeah.
that I love about it the most is just the complete seamlessness of it.
I
Like,
think
you can go from gliding down to fighting, call the Batman, call the Batmobile, help the Batmobile help you fight, jump in the Batmobile, drive
Yeah, that's
off,
pretty
turn
great.
into battle mode,
It
fly up,
is-
grappling.
it is
it's
like-
like woo.
Extremely highly polished video game magic, isn't it?
yeah, it
It's
is. It's
amazing.
great.
That's
It's great. Like all the stuff where you're like gliding, hit L1. And it's like, all right, Batmobile's here, dive into that, sweet.
Mm.
You're like, that's
I
proper.
don't know.
That's incredibly well refined.
I'm only like maybe 3 or 4 hours in, but I think because the way I play it is that I try never to touch the ground.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
as you-
definitely.
as you play
It's
more
like
of
the
it.
games you play as a kid, isn't it? Like where you're
Yeah.
trying to jump between your
But
sofas and
I
the ground
definitely
is
agree
lava.
that like
Carpet is lava.
yeah, I think if you're into the rhythm of playing the previous Arkham games, you're definitely gonna try gliding a lot. But I've kind of like, all right, I'm gonna try the Batmobile because stuff is far away in this game, compared.
But flying to it is awesome.
Yeah, it's and
Flying
it's
to
quite
it is
quick as
awesome.
well.
Yeah.
But if you're only three or 4 hours into it, by the end of it, because I've just done the story, and I think the only thing I've got left now to do are the riddles. As the game goes on, that the Batmobile becomes far more centralized to the game and a lot of the missions that you have to do. Obviously, there's have you come across the bomb missions yet?
No, not
No.
yet. No.
Okay, so you get bomb missions, which are Batmobile. You need the Batmobile for. Riddler's main story mission.
Riddler is like, I'm fucking bored of races. Bored of riddles. Let's just race.
Yeah, I've
It's
just done
like-
the first one of those.
How is
But
how
they
is
get
that your
Riddler
plan,
cut.
Riddler?
But they get really good though because it's like a racing riddle. You've got to race
Yes.
whilst trying to work out the puzzle.
It's
No,
kind of
to
like
disrupt
a
that as you
racing
go.
game, but with like a rhythm game, like Guitar Hero, but racing as well.
It is cool, but I also kind of feel like, how was this your plan, Riddler? Why was your plan to make me drive a lot?
How long have you been making these? Because these look like they take a lot of effort. Also, why have you given me exactly the same things that I have gadgets for?
Yes, that's also true. Like because you kind of
Give
felt
me stuff I've literally no idea what it is.
yeah, you kind of felt
That'll
like
really
in the previous games, like you were using your gadgets in a way to circumvent the stuff that was there, right? Whereas here, it kind of feels like they have been designed
Specifically for
particularly.
your gadgets.
Yes, you're like seems like
Hey,
you weren't really
Batman,
trying.
I've been really analysing the equipment you've been using, and I've put something together which I think you're really going to enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all right.
The thing that I love most about it, because I went into it pretty much dark. I'd watched one trailer, but I don't remember, having sound up. So I just literally looked at it to see what the graphics looked like and see what the Batmobile looked like and things like that. So other than that, I went into it in the dark. And the thing that immediately struck me, I was like, wait a minute. When they say Arkham Knight, they're not referring to Batman.
No. But I tell you what I actually think is great, which is something that I've really noticed is it's something that a lot of games don't do, and they've done this perfectly. Is the trailers only give away beats from like the first hour of the story or so,
and that's enough to make it. Because I said when I first played it, I got it last Friday. I think I put out on Twitter because it's one of those games that, like The Last of Us and the other one, do that really.
Uncharted?
That might be it. But it hooks me in. Like I need games that have a hook. Otherwise, like with The Witcher, for example, that didn't have a hook, and it took me a few hours to actually get into that. Shadow of Mordor, fucking shit. So Batman, within the first 5-10 minutes, I'd already learned how to fight, glide, use the Batmobile, fight with the Batmobile, and I was just like, that's it, I'm in.
I kind of feel for me, like I felt the story because I'd seen a lot of the trailers, so I was kind of like, all right, this story seems pretty flat and predictable, and definitely without spoiling it, but there is a story beat that happens. I'm not even going to say what happens or where or like anything like that. But there's a story beat that happens that I was not expecting at all, and it's nothing to do with any of the trailers. And now I'm like, okay, I'm super invested in the story now. I know that
you can't say that without me knowing what you mean.
But you know exactly what I mean.
Yeah, but for people like me who haven't played it yet,
no,
that's a good description.
Because I've got loads that I'd like to say.
Oh, you want to know which specific
Lewis,
thing he's talking about?
Because there's loads that I'd like to say, but thinking that it'll be fine because it happens quite.
If you want, I can dip out and you can have a spoiler cast for back.
Because this isn't going to spoil it for you at all, Kevin. But I'll cut this out of the podcast in case anyone else. But all I'll say is Ace Chemicals, and you'll know what I mean.
Oh yeah, no, that's
incredible.
That's like the first mission, but
yeah,
that's one thing that I'd like to talk about because I think that's.
I will definitely talk about it, but I haven't finished the game yet. So
no, but from that mechanic, and again, it happens very early on.
Yeah,
and then I wasn't expecting it like yourself, but the way that plays out for the entire rest of the game, it is phenomenal.
Oh,
it's not only phenomenally written, but the way that it creeps into the game. Like even if it's not a big segment, like you might. Yeah, there are moments where you grapple up onto a building and it scares the shit out of me because as you're climbing over the ledge of the building, exactly, bam, in your face, and it's and the dialogue that he and in fact loads of the dialogue, like even between the militia and the goons and stuff, but the dialogue that he has even in those short moments, it's just really on point and brilliant. I absolutely love that side of the game.
Yeah, it's. I will say the only thing that I did find slightly disappointing is it's kind of like because they're this shouldn't spoil it for you, Kev, at all. But like at Ace Chemicals, you've got that moment of peril, but you're also like, and it feels like you might genuinely die, but you're also an hour into the story, and so you're kind of like, probably not going to, am I? It's like when you get that moment. It's when you're watching like a detective story, and you're like, they look like they've solved it half an hour in, You're like, probably not then.
Yeah.
Because I know this show doesn't end for another 15 minutes, so it's not going to be just them being like, well, we've solved that crime. Excellent.
Feet up.
The very first line of the game, though, before you even play any game, and the very first cutscene or line of dialogue is, "This is the night he."
This is how it happened.
Yeah, this is how it happened. This is how the Batman dies. So from that very first moment, before you've even played the game, you're constantly looking forward and thinking, "Oh, is this the moment that something happens?"
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
You don't know. Because I'm always thinking, well, you can't die because that's ridiculous. And it's a type of game where at the end you get to go back and complete all the bits you've left behind. So I was thinking it can't work. But you're always looking for that story point that might reveal something, quite dramatic.
That either it's like, because you don't know if they mean physically, I mean, obviously, but do they mean physically, do they mean metaphorically? Is it something to do with like his character kind of dies or evolves or whatever?
No, absolutely. And I will say, again, it won't be spoiling anything, but I will say what we were just mentioning about a certain character.
Yes.
At the end, there is a sequence at the end which is just it's so I was so like buzzing off it. It was brilliant. Think Weeping Angels.
Yeah.
It was like that.
Oh, fuck.
It was tense. It was scary. It was maniacal. It was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then at the end, when the story completes, there's because the thing that I was thinking, like with The Witcher, where I've completed the story, I've now reached a point where I have no incentive to go and finish off bits and bobs because I'm now at a level where nothing is of interest to me, and nothing is a challenge. So I've sort of abandoned it completely. Whereas with Batman, the story ends, but there's this little sort of nugget to hold on to that that makes you want to go and complete everything 100%. Because when it's 100%, that's when the actual story will come to a complete end. And I just thought that was genius as well.
The other thing I really like is that quite early on they let you play it. I don't want to say who it is, but they let you play it as another character.
Oh yeah,
but I know it's lots of it, but it's kind of. Because when they kind of revealed that, it felt like that would be a mechanic more towards the end game. But it happens very early on. But it's also not. It's not just done for pure gameplay reasons. It's done as a natural part of the story.
Yeah.
Like there's a bit right at the beginning which kind of feels slightly gimmicky. Like the intro bit feels a bit gimmicky where you're.
You play as the first person.
Yeah, you play in the first person as the policeman. I don't think that's spoiling stuff. It's like it's the opening. It's the opening. It's in the trailer and it's the opening scene of the game. I won't say what happens for anyone who hasn't seen that scene in the trailers or whatever. But yeah, it's the opening scene and you play as a policeman, and that felt a little bit gimmicky. But then you play as like other characters who are part of the Batman universe later on in the game. And again, but the one I've played of that doesn't feel like it is. It's not just here's a cool gimmick. This is a natural part of the story. And
I hope you get to play as the Flash.
but it's like this is a natural part of the story.
Play the hell out of a Flash game,
and you're just exploring.
When I say a Flash game, I don't mean like it's 1995.
but you're exploring some stuff in the story from this other character's perspective, which kind of feels very natural. It makes a lot more sense than playing as Batman and this other character arriving. It kind of makes more sense the other way around. And also seeing it from this other character's perspective makes you realize how far Batman is willing to go.
Yeah.
And is kind of like, I'm not sure he's the good guy. Oh, okay.
And that's something because of the situation at Ace Chemicals. That's something that really comes to the forefront as you go through.
Yeah.
And because the other thing is constantly trying to
exactly
don't
say more than that. But I know what you mean.
The other thing that I was going to say is I was really impressed by it because obviously at the end of Arkham City, you had obviously upgraded everything and become as strong as possible. I love the fact that you start this game.
You start like ludicrously strong.
Yeah.
And then they upgrade you.
There's still more to get.
Yeah. Well, what I like as well is there's a scene in the Batman games. It's definitely in City, and I think it's in Origins, but where you basically put the Batsuit on. But in this game, you start in the Batsuit, and then he's like, nah, we're going to put more Batsuit on.
Yeah.
We're going to put extra Batsuit on top of your normal Batsuit. It's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And it is actually pretty fucking awesome, but it also feels super ridiculous.
But it's like, done so well. That it's super cool, but it also just feels absolutely nuts. They're like,
sure, you're already wearing a Batman suit, but you could be wearing more bat suit than you currently are. So let's just get that going.
I changed the skin to the 60s Batman. I played that for about an hour or two, and I thought, this is really having an effect on the impact of the story.
Turns into a sort of comedy.
Cuts in, I'm like, Adam West, go away. I want Batman back. So I changed it to the red one, and in the end, I just changed it back. I thought, no, I just need the Batman suit that they gave me. The amount of gadgets and stuff that you get, because there's so many, it's unbelievable. I was really worried that it would become difficult to remember which one's which and which one, what does what and all this sort of stuff. But actually, how it just all feels completely natural. Not only just the gameplay and the movement from moving from car to gliding to fighting, but whilst you're doing all of that, using your gadgets in between. So whilst you're fighting, you can, spray your gel, use your claw, throw a batarang, use your electrical charge, fly up, and it is so fluid. That's what makes it so much fun, because there isn't a moment where it just goes, hang on a minute, I need to load all of this up first before you can enjoy yourself. It's just like, yep, here's Gotham, have at it. And that's the other thing is Gotham this time round feels like like it's actually alive,
a living, breathing city.
But
where in City it was more like
absolutely gorgeous as well. The environment.
But what I don't like is there's still like you're playing, and it's great, and you do get a big area to explore, and maybe this changed later in the game, but you can see the even bigger city on the other side of the water, and you're like,
you just sit there going, I want to be over there.
Yeah, it's like, I want to go fucking there. Like, this place looks super small compared to what's over there. Stop mocking me with the other awesome city over there.
But it feels alive though. Like, whereas with City, it was it was a gorgeous design, but it just felt more of an environment. Whereas this one, as you're going through, you can hear all the conversations like City, but they're a lot more.
They're a lot more natural, and they're not all about like crime.
No, and there are some really funny moments. Like, I think I came out of GCPD once, and one police officer was leant up against the Batmobile, and the other one was taking a picture of him. And he was like, "Oh, sorry, Batman." And they run off, sort of thing. It was getting a selfie with the Batmobile.
The great one I had was like, "Will you come out? Will you take the Batmobile to the police station first time?" And they came out, and one of them was like, "Don't touch it! You can't touch the Batmobile." It was so cool.
There are some really good ones between the the militia and stuff. I think the ones that made me really laugh, I can't say because it probably would give away a few things, but. Yeah, I love that side of it, and like I say, and also the destruction, the fact that you can get in your Batmobile, turn into battle mode, and as you're going sideways while destroying loads of drones, you can take out a bridge support and loads of barriers and stuff like that. Take out a shop window. Cool. I just love that level of it as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a lot of fun. The battle mode stuff, although you are going up against other tanks, does feel slightly contrived. Like, it was just like, it kind of feels like they went, I guess a mechanic where you're just the Batmobile and go fast is not enough. We should probably add more to this. Well, and that just feels slightly ridiculous.
That was kind of born out of the fact that city's not built for cars.
Yeah, so, it's not at all.
They need a way of making that big, fast car be able to move around really tight spaces.
Yeah, which I'm fine with that, but then the fact it's also just a fucking tank feels so un-Batman-like.
Oh, I don't know, because it's not just a tank, though, is it?
No, it's
super maneuverable.
It's super maneuverable, and that's super cool, and that's all great, except for the fact it has a 60mm cannon on top of it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Because looking.
I also wonder what the fuck was his plan if the tanks that he goes up against weren't drone tanks. He'd be like, oh well, bugger. I guess I got this big cannon for fuck all then.
Doesn't he? When you're chasing cars,
that's true.
He does.
Yeah, but it takes like 3 shots to take out a car with immobilized. How is he going to take out a tank?
Yeah, that's why you just run them off the road.
Yeah, I did that once. It was pretty satisfying. Into them. Yeah.
Because when I watched the trailer, I thought at the time that car looks really horrible to handle because the streets don't look big enough, but actually that doesn't come across when playing it at all. The streets.
I think the car actually handles really well.
Yeah,
I don't think it does sometimes, but sometimes it's like it feels very loose around corners. But on the other hand, like you don't really slow down. No, which is great.
And I don't tend to boost because if you boost, that's when it all goes a bit blurry and you start to lose control.
Yeah.
And most corners you can do really smart drifts around. When you get to the U bends or make a 180-degree turn or whatever, that's you just hit battle mode, spin
Yeah,
round,
that's true.
straight back off.
The thing
I
is,
love
the
that.
thing that is driving me slightly insane with it though is just the fact that like every time you're in it, you go to a cutscene where it stops. You get the exact same cutscene of like Batman spinning it round,
And the wheels.
and it zooms in on the wheel, and then the wheel, like the brake pads go from red hot and so like quickly cool down, and that's just driving me slightly crazy that it's just basically the exact same cutscene every
I think
time.
I've only ever seen that like twice.
I've seen it. I've seen it like 4 times already, genuinely, and it's driving me slightly crazy.
It's really weird though that this new Batman game is basically the best Burnout game since Burnout 3.
Oh, it's a pretty good Burnout game. That is definitely true. And I do like the fact that they've made the Batmobile super maneuverable in tank mode. Does let you do like puzzles with it and shit, where you've got like navigate around rooftops and things like that. Really works.
It's become another gadget rather than just a car.
Yeah. I think also letting you remote control it, like with full remote control, is genius.
And that's also because there have been times where I've been sat like surveying either a militia group that I need to take down or a hostage situation or whatever, and I'm like, I'll have a go, and three goes later, I've been killed, and I'd sit there and I'm like, I get really frustrated, and then I just think, oh, for fuck's sake, I've got control of the Batmobile, haven't I? Whack on the Batmobile and take them all out from afar, and you're like, well, I should have thought of that first.
That was easy.
Because there are some that are designed to do that. You think you'll sit there and you overthink it, but actually, there's just an alleyway where you can send the Batmobile down. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, it makes you feel really stupid.
Yeah.
And there was a Riddler yesterday or whenever. There was a Riddler trophy. I was stood literally for about 40 minutes, just stood there getting really wound up because I could see what I needed to do and I could see where things needed to go and I had them all in the right place and nothing was being released or changing, and I was getting really frustrated. So I literally just jumped up and down, trying to blow things up with gel, and that just wasn't working. And then I just stood there, went for a walk. There's a door that you just walk in and shoot up, and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" This door was just there in the background, completely inconspicuous. 40 minutes I wasted looking for a fucking open door.
Detective vision usually sorts that out.
No, it didn't, because it wasn't a door in the sense that you open it. It was just a door frame without a door in it.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just purple, part of the background.
What else? I think that the best thing about the Batmobile though is just the transitions into it.
Yeah.
That's just
it is all very smooth.
It's just so cool every time. Every time you do it. Oh, the other thing I really like, and I don't think many other games do this, is because there's just so much going on. I like that they kind of keep, at least so far that I've played in the game, they're keeping like certain command prompts on the screen in the bottom right corner. So it's just like, oh, you're gliding and hit L2 and circle to dive and shit like that.
I thought that was maybe an issue on the PC build.
No, it's in there.
That stuff stays on screen for a really long time.
No,
I've done that move already.
No, but I think it's just there because you've got like so much shit going on.
Yeah.
That they're like, we should probably remind these people of this but it doesn't, because it's just done in a way it doesn't feel like intrusive at all.
I think what Pete means, like you're right in the sense that when you're flying, you'll have the little prompt that just reminds you of what. But what I think I've experienced what Pete means, in that you might be in the middle of a fight and it will say, 4 square presses will give you
it comes
this,
up kind of in the middle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you finish the battle. And then you're flying around the city for 10 minutes afterwards. I think there was one instance where it was still there, and I was like, "How the fuck am I going to get rid of that?" But it just disappeared after.
Just sometimes it seems like they stay for a really long time. I think the one with me was the triple press of the A button for the grapple boost thing.
Right.
Oh,
and it stayed on the screen for like 20 minutes. I'm like, yes, I've done that.
But
Show me something else.
What I like is you just trying to get rid of it.
But you get upgrades to the booster, and it's basically just like keep pressing the button more and more times, and you'll boost more and more. You're like, well, this is fucking nuts. I can't boost that far. Oh, I can. Okay, I'm boosting pretty fast now.
Give you a slight boost.
But it's a bit weird because
once
once you have the triple button press that gives you the super boost, why would you ever use the non-super boost?
I know, but now I'm up to quad boost.
I was going to say,
really?
the final one. The final one is 5 boosts.
Oh,
yeah, because quite early on, when you get into the upgrade system, you get like quad boost is one of the first things that's in there. And so I unlocked that pretty early on. It was like, you boost even more. I was like, oh shit, I'm already boosting quite a lot. Let's see what happens. Fuck, this is fast.
Yeah, the last one's 5.
Yeah.
And it's just like, who fucking needs a car? Woo! I love
At
the
that
fact
point,
that
it's
when
just
you,
like one of those Olympics games where you just have to keep hammering the button as fast as you can.
if you just see the bat just going up and down in peaks and troughs across Gotham skyline. Because I love the fact that when you dive and then pull back up again, he gains height. Because I don't remember him doing that in City. I remember him just gradually going down, whereas now you can speed towards and then gain loads of height back.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I think that was in City, but I don't think it was as pronounced.
Right. Anyway, let's move
It's
on
hard
because
to
we talked about Batman a
Batman's
lot.
awesome. Can we come back to it when everyone's played it?
Yeah, I'm
'Cause
gonna play
I would like
more
to
of it.
talk about that specific story.
Should do like a big spoiler cast.
Yeah,
let's
we
do
will
it.
do because we did for I don't know if we did for City or probably City, not Origins, but we did do it once, and I'll do it once I've played.
And we did an
enough of it.
Avengers spoiler cast.
Yeah, so we will. I think we'll definitely do it once we play it. But I don't know if Kev's ever going to play it because it's Kev.
Well, more to the point,
You should get it,
I've
Kev.
got The Witcher to play, and unlike
true.
Lewis, I'm not some sort of time traveling
I don't
games player.
Lewis is like, I finished The Witcher 3 and Batman. I was like, how?
I don't know.
Surely
how.
you haven't had enough hours yet since
No,
playing
I don't-
them
I
to
don't know
do all
how.
of the content.
I got it Friday, and I thought what I'll do is I'll clean up The Witcher's story before I move on to Batman. So Friday night, I cleaned up The Witcher's story. Saturday, I played a bit of Batman, and I played a bit on Sunday. But it wasn't like I'd binged on it. I just played.
So
a
how
bit.
long
And
did
then
you put into The
for
Witcher
work,
overall?
I've been at work. I've been planning, obviously doing all my stuff. So I'm in at work at 7:00. I'm home at 5. And I just genuinely don't know how I've done it.
So fuck those. Anyway,
Crazy business.
we will talk about it again soon.
Fallout
Peter.
4 out in a few months.
Peter.
Yay!
No,
And and what do we call it?
Let's
Star
move
Wars
on.
Battlefield,
Peter.
which could go either way at the moment. But yeah, you Fallout. Yeah.
Peter.
Yes, Christian.
You went to Los Angeles
I did.
for the Electronic Entertainment Expo.
Fucking hot.
It is. It's an
Like
accurate
it is
description
now.
of LA. Is hot.
Yep.
So
For the Triple E's.
so did you? You went there.
I did.
Not on TSA's dime because you don't do that anymore.
No.
You went there to shill
Somebody
it.
else's money. Somebody else paid.
You shilled for a game.
I did. Well, I didn't really. We were kind of meant to, and then it wasn't quite
then
ready to
you
show
got bored. You're like, fuck it.
Yeah, we were going. The idea originally was we were going to go and show New and Tasty on Wii U and Vita.
For people who are confused, Peter now works for Oddworld, basically.
Yeah, I do. So we were going to show Oddworld New and Tasty on Wii U and Vita. It turns out that the builds weren't quite ready to show people just yet. They still needed a lot of optimization work. And obviously you don't want to show people when it's still like the frame rate's a bit low and it's still just chugging along a bit. So we didn't have that to show anybody. We had Munch's Odyssey on iPad, and we had New and Tasty on Android that we had to have like a level built up that we showed some people. And then apart from that, it was basically just getting a feel for the show, see what the industry's doing, talk to people, see how all this VR and AR stuff's going to shake out, and sort of try and pick up ideas for the next things.
Can I just ask? I don't wish to sound, like a complete novice here. What is AR? Because in my head, I just keep thinking actual
Augmented.
reality, and I just think, well, just go
Augmented
for a walk.
reality.
So have you seen,
Right.
did you see Google Glass?
Okay. Yep, I know.
Yeah.
And
basically,
HoloLens,
and
Minecraft.
I know that one. I just didn't know what the A stood. I was thinking, is that actual reality, or are we just saying that you get a box that gives you instructions to go for a walk?
Take a deep breath. Maybe get
Go
a
to the
sandwich.
Oh my god, the graphics are
Alternative?
amazing.
Alternative reality.
Could be.
You know,
But it's not.
you put the glasses on and you're now actually a married gay man who very much enjoys horse riding. That would be an alternative reality, wouldn't it?
It would be.
It's just
That seems like a very specific
Well, that's yours.
alternative reality.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
That's
okay.
specifically yours. Kev has alternative realities for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Pete is actually a ballet instructor.
Yeah, but I'm the perfect body shape for it.
Yeah, well, his shape belies his grace. That's what they say about. That's what his reviews said back when he was the big star.
Oh, well, I was born on a
That's
Tuesday.
what the Bolshoi
so
credit.
full of grace,
Exactly.
apparently.
Chris is
so,
actually
yeah.
basically Chris, but he's slightly taller.
It's so that you can get on rides
It's like
at theme
sliders.
parks. Just,
The gate's not squeaking.
Anyway.
oh, don't talk about
Anyway.
Bad times for all of us, wasn't it?
So that's
That
more
was-
things, Peter.
that was really it. It was
What
just...
I would like to hear about from E3 is your Morpheus experiences, because I'm quite excited about VR, and I'm hoping, although kind of fearing the worst, in that like I think Morpheus is probably going to be the worst of all of the things that are going to be encompassed in the VR umbrella.
I was hoping you were going to specify VR and not just generally.
just the worst
the worst
thing.
of all the things. No, there are worse things than like Sony's virtual reality offering in the world.
Okay, so
How was it?
my opinion, I've tried several different VR systems now. My opinion of it is that it will all depend on the software after release, but I think in terms of the hardware and what they're targeting, I think that Morpheus is probably the weakest of them all because the others run off high-end PCs. But I think it has the most chance of success.
Okay.
And that's because Sony has everything in place to make it a success.
Yeah.
You know, they have the PSN, they have the delivery system for games, basically. They have the audience already attached. They have the distribution channels. They get hardware into stores and they have shelf space and they have all those relationships. And they have the relationships with the developers. Now, all the other people that are engaged in VR, like the other serious contenders are Rift and Steam VR. Steam has the distribution network for games, and it would be very, very easy for Steam to build the relationships with developers. But they don't have any experience whatsoever with getting hardware into shops. And anything they've ever tried with that, like Steam machines have been going for like 2 years now, and they haven't really had any major success on that at all. We'll see at the end of this year with the Steam controller and the Steam Link stuff, whether they can actually get that to retail. But Steam, like Valve doesn't have a distribution network. They don't have like Sony already has trucks going to shops. They'll just put Morpheus in that and their shit will be in every game shop. Oculus Rift, I think their technology is amazing, but they don't have any of that whatsoever. You know, Facebook is not a games company, and Oculus is a technology company. They're solving problems, but they're hiring the right sort of people. But as it stands, they don't have relationships with developers, and they don't have a channel into retail stores. So I think that Morpheus stands the best chance of succeeding in the first wave of VR stuff. I think the more exciting thing is probably the second wave, because I don't think, like I played Morpheus while I was at E3, and it's not, the PlayStation 4 is not powerful enough to do VR.
Right.
And that's sort of a sweeping statement that people will perhaps be shocked and annoyed by. But it, like we were saying earlier about VR, it needs low latency. It needs a high frame rate, and it's pushing to two eyes separately on separate channels. The PlayStation 4 can't do 1080p at 60 frames per second. So it cannot do 1440p at 120 frames a second.
Nope.
So there's an awful lot of clever hardware stuff that they're doing to make that work, and a lot of interpolation, and they're doing stuff with the screen in Morpheus.
Yeah, they are doing really the pixel density stuff they're doing is really interesting.
Yeah, it's really clever. And they're looking for solutions because they know themselves that they can't just brute force it the way the Oculus Rift basically can. They can say, well, yeah, you need the highest of high-end PCs to make this work properly. And that can be their minimum system requirements. And if you like it, then good. And if you don't, then tough. But Sony can't do that. So they're looking at sort of clever ways around that. But they're never going to get to the point where they can run like the latest high-end graphics heavy games on Morpheus in VR. They just don't have the power for it. So the demos that they had were all either incredibly sort of, linear is the wrong word, but incredibly sort of tight, controlled demos where you're in a certain place and these things are happening around you, or they chose an art style. And the demo, I played a demo called Battle Zone, which was like a reimagining of an old, like C64 or Amiga game, I think. But it's basically a tank arena battler. But it was like a Tron style. So everything, the textures were all fairly flat. Graduation and the lines picked out inside like neon. So it was a very definite sort of simplified art style, and it was brilliant. It worked brilliantly. And it was fast and it was smooth, and the pixel density was far better than my Rift DK2. And it just worked. It was just good. because they picked the art style. Now that's something that Nintendo have been very good at this past couple of years.
Yeah,
like Mario Kart runs at 1080p 60.
Yeah, if you pick
because they picked an art style.
Yeah, if you can't go for like super high-end photorealistic graphics, go for something that is slightly like easier on the GPU to render.
So I think that's what we'll see with this first wave of VR stuff. Is we'll see Sony basically having a successful piece of, or relatively successful piece of hardware out in the wild with software that works for it. And the developers that develop for that system and choose their art style and are smart about how they make games for Morpheus, I think will find the most success there. Meanwhile, the first consumer version of Rift, and I think probably the first wave of Steam VR stuff when that comes out, are still going to be very much in the experimental stage. They'll still be for the high-end enthusiast.
Yeah.
They'll probably still be massively expensive. And they'll still be a stepping stone to what's going to come in 5 years' time. And in terms of VR, I am completely sold. You know, VR is not, I've seen people compare it to 3D TV, and it's not analogous to 3D TV at all, because 3D TV was something that was pushed by the TV industry because they wanted to sell more TVs to people who had just bought HD TVs.
Yeah, and they didn't have 4K TVs ready yet.
Yeah. So they shoehorned this thing, and even in like when they put it into movies at the cinema,
yeah,
it's because they want people to keep going to the cinema.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not because people actually want that thing. But VR is not just like an addition. It's not just an added on thing. It's something completely new. So I think that it's not analogous to 3D TV. It's analogous to the invention of TV. It's going to be a completely new thing, and it's going to be a completely new way to experience different things. Like people, when TV was invented, people could now like watch visual representations of things where previously they only had the audio coming through the radio. And I think VR is a similar leap because you are moving away from you're moving away from watching something on a flat screen somewhere on your wall to now being in the middle of that. And the big buzzword that everybody talks about is presence. And that kind of feels like, well, yeah, of course you want to feel like you're there, and you know that's an important thing. But once you actually experience it, presence changes everything.
Yeah.
So you are no longer like, one of the demos is a dinosaur thing. If you think about when you're like the first time you played Tomb Raider and the first time that T-Rex came out, you see it on the screen, you're like, oh god, that's huge, that's massive. It's not. It's like a foot tall. And it's on the other side of a screen. It's a flat thing. There's no real feeling of peril. In VR, that thing's 60 feet tall, and you have to crane your neck up to see it. You know, that sense of scale. That sense
that's kind
where
of awesome.
You are in the world.
Yeah.
That's
what I liked. That's what I liked when I played Radial G. Was like, you can, because the track loops and stuff, and curves up and down, you can look up to see where you're going next.
Yep.
And shit like that, and you can look around the track, and that's great. That's a great feeling.
And everything, you get a much better sense of scale. You know, you no longer have to measure everything in a scene against something that you know the size of. So you no longer have to put the person in the scene anymore.
Yes.
You know, you can just have this dinosaur or, you know, this, I don't know, spaceship or whatever, and you know what size it is because you know how far you have to turn your head to see from one end to the other.
Yeah, that's really cool.
The one thing about VR and AR that I've been sort of thinking about recently, and I come at it from the extreme point of view, but thinking of you know, a couple of kids that I work with and their dependency and almost addiction on computers and stuff is, you know, I started thinking, watching the HoloLens, and I know the camera that was used in that demo was probably a bit you know, a bit oh, for fuck's sake, I can't speak today. It was not as good as the glasses apparently were when you tried it on. I don't know if you tried it or not, but
well, it's the camera that they had on stage was like a wider field of view. HoloLens has like a fairly narrow window to look at things. So it's like,
yeah. But looking at that, like that actually, you know, that was like, wow, that is phenomenal technology. And I remember showing my kids at the time, and they were just absolutely blown away by it. And I started thinking, I think, could it be a step too far and cause loads of problems in the sense of people just...
You've seen that Bruce Willis movie, Surrogates?
Sci-fi film, but yeah, Surrogates. It's a bit like that, where but you just think, are we going to end up in a point where people are just lost in their own little virtual world because actually now it's more?
Well, I think this is what's really
than
interesting
the
about
real
the
one.
Facebook acquisition, like, because I don't see that as being a device that's even going to try and be used for games. Like all the stuff that Pete was saying, they don't even have those connections anyway, but they do have this huge social drive, and so like they're going to be doing like, I don't know, go into the cinema with your mate who actually lives in America, and you can go and sit next to each other and watch a film, or just stuff like that.
That
social
would be kind of
spaces.
cool, yeah.
That's what
like going to a
Oculus-
cafe and just sitting down at a cafe that isn't a real cafe, but you're there with another person who's
That's
you
kind
know,
of
the
that's
other
just
side of the world.
the proper kind of like cyberpunk stuff that people like Gibson were writing about in the 90s is going to be awesome.
That's kind of what Oculus was showing though at this E3. It's what they were pushing was the multiplayer side.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because that was kind of the thing they showed at the Microsoft. At the Oculus event when they announced their partnership with Microsoft, and it was like, here's a living room where there's a guy, like a virtual living room in the Oculus, where there's a guy playing stuff on a normal 2D screen. This is an odd decision.
Yeah, that's a bit strange, but I think more pertinent to what Kev was saying is the multiplayer stuff they showed in, I think they were calling it the Toy Box, where basically two people in two separate rooms could interact with each other.
Oh,
to
yeah,
the point where they
I
could
heard
throw
about
balls
this.
to each other. They could throw, like, one person could throw something up in the air and the other person could shoot it with ray guns. It was that sort of tight interaction.
I
with,
feel like
low latency. And once
in
they get that
terms of
stuff down, it comes to the point where you can, like, hand things to each other.
Yeah.
In a virtual world, which is kind of really interesting.
I feel like that, in terms of the long-term effect, like what you were saying about that kind of paradigm shift of what VR is and does, I feel like that social Facebookiness about it is what you can kind of see extending into the future. Like that's the futuristic thing. Like games are good, but that's like not the thing that will make it a thing that every home has.
That's
at least
also
not
the
initially.
direction that the games have started to take, is that they're moving on to social platforms. More and more. I mean, there's more people play games on Facebook than play games on a PlayStation.
Yeah.
And to go back to what Lewis was saying about people existing in a virtual world, I think that's an important point, because for a start, I think that's always happened. People get lost in World of Warcraft.
And that's the thing.
Life.
I've got I can't say too much just in case, but I've got one kid in particular who has a serious addiction to computing and just technology in general, and with things like Minecraft, he or she has commented in the past that when he dies in the games it affects him and stuff like that. And I know that's an extreme case, but all I could think when I saw the HoloLens stuff, I just thought, if that kid gets hold of that technology, he is lost.
Well,
forever.
it's an important issue for the people making this hardware and the people who own the technology and the people who are making software for it. All have to think about that sort of shit. And it also speaks to what will be a wider spread problem, which is that if you're using VR, you need a safe space, because it's not like, I've seen photographs and like people basically taking the piss of VR. Like, there's a famous photograph that's done the rounds on Twitter of somebody using Rift and all his friends around them, like mooning him with their asses right in his face. And I've seen pictures of people on the tube using the Samsung VR thing.
Yeah,
that's fucking ridiculous. That
that
man deserves to get his pockets picked. And we're going to hear all that shit. When VR launches, we're going to hear the stories about people using it in public spaces and like taking it off and their bag and their bike has been stolen.
Yeah. Or people in their houses being burgled because they're too busy.
And it's the same thing. You put yourself into a different place. And if
I think that's what's interesting about the augmented reality stuff, is like that stuff lets you see the world you're in and the virtual stuff. And I think that's kind of interesting.
I think that's interesting.
Yeah, but I
also think that's much more of a
dangerous.
I'm not. I think it's much more of a like a social. I think that has a much greater social aspect to it than VR will, because of the real world uses. Like, I don't.
And VR is by its nature like isolating. You can't experience it with other people.
Yeah,
I think it's bizarre that Facebook bought Oculus to make VR rather than buy the technology companies that were working on like Google Glass and HoloLens sort of stuff, because Facebook's an advertising company and augmented reality is an advertising platform. They will make games for it. They'll make like different tutorial stuff for it probably, and they'll make interactive stuff that's fun for it. But ultimately, what it's going to do is tell you what restaurant has a special offer on when you're walking down the street. It'll tell you the best place to go to buy Coke. It will augment your reality with whatever the companies want to say.
Yeah, but because as well as the Minecraft demo that they did on stage, I looked at the trailer for what the end goal vision for HoloLens is, and you saw designers working on motorbikes with it and all that lot, and I can't not agree with the fact that the technology looks superb, and
it's like a vision of the future.
It will be it will be amazing to live in a time where you can do that sort of stuff. But the fact that you can play a game anywhere, on the table and stuff like that. All I just kept thinking was, how long before people start hallucinating or becoming dependent on that technology in their life? And that's the thing. And I'm not saying I wouldn't use it because it's bad and all that. I think it's great, and I love the technology that's coming up. But like I say, having seen the vulnerable, I can't help but think it.
Yeah, I think
what impact will it have? Because you will get people with hallucinations that have used it for such a long time that now they're seeing things even without the technology on their head, and how.
Well, there's already been sort of tentative accusations that VR can cause issues with the way people think and like people's psychology, because they live in this virtual world where things behave differently. And if you spend enough time doing that, when you take the headset off, do you expect the real world to behave like that?
So it's like when I started playing Cut the Rope the first time round. When you're going to bed, like, you're still cutting ropes, just like the mechanic, not even doing anything. The mechanic is repeating in your brain.
Does anybody else have that thing where, like, if you play an Assassin's Creed game for like 5 hours and then you go and do your shopping,
you look for
the way to run up like shelves and stuff?
Totally. Like in my old flat, there was a church opposite, and like it was after Assassin's Creed 2, and I'd just been absolutely rinsing it. And like I just came out of my house one day and I was like, cool, I could definitely make it up there. It's like, no, I couldn't. I don't have those skills. But like,
I think
I saw
this is
the
handholds.
handholds.
I mean,
because I remember with Red Dead Redemption, when that came out, I remember I was driving down a lane somewhere, and either side were just green hedges, and then all of a sudden there was a red plant, and I actually slowed down my car. Thinking,
I remember.
I need to. What the fuck
You say that actually, like now I'm walking down the street from The Witcher. I'm going to probably collect that plant, like just sticking out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, is that celandine? I think I need a bit of that.
So, I mean, this has always been an issue with interactive experiences. It's like, even down to things like, I still, to this day, regularly have bits of the Mario theme music pop up in my head. These things do stay with us, and it is a massive problem that people who make VR equipment and software are going to have to face at some point.
But saying that, like, I experience these things, but I don't think like that is actually true. Like, I see that church and I go, oh, there are the handholds, I could totally climb that, and then I go, no, because I'm not actually a Desmond.
Yeah, but it's your subconscious, it's suggesting to you that you could.
And I think you were saying that idea of presence. I think that presence really changes things in terms of like your mental.
Yeah, and if you've had those thoughts from playing it on a 2D screen in your world, imagine it won't take much before, if you're closed into a VR headset, it won't take much for that to really start having serious impact. But then you get into the whole issue of who has responsibility.
Yep, absolutely.
Who do the VR makers have to take responsibility?
Parents.
If something tragic happens. Do the parents? Does the person have to take sole responsibility? Do the game makers have to take? Who in the end will be able to say, "Yep, that's my fault actually, because we knew this might happen." But it's never going to happen. You're never going to find a guilty
that's
party.
The issue.
It will be a culmination of all these things.
Everyone will say, "Well, no, it's not my fault. It's their fault." And it'll just get passed around.
And then also be loads of, in the same way there is with literally any early technology, like scare stories and like things, warnings away from it. And,
like with the Wii units, with the Wii U remotes. But when that came out, it was like, don't play the Wii because you'll smash everything in your living room.
Or I'll just hold on to it tightly, or, be careful.
Yeah, the Nintendo 3DS is not recommended for children under 13 or something.
Right.
Because 3D can fuck with your eyes.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
and yet there they all are.
Anyway.
Movies would have been criticised for, being damaging to your health and stuff when they first emerged, I'm sure. Like, I think with any new thing, it's going to be scare stories and mistrust.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you have censorship, isn't it?
But this is absolutely the questions that people are going to ask, and people think that like motion sickness is the big concern, but motion sickness, like that problem is basically solved. Like the headaches, that problem is basically solved. I mean, yes, it still happens, but it only happens if you don't know how to fix it, and people know how to fix it now.
So,
but these are the next sort of wave of big questions around this stuff.
So not only will they be troubled because of the impact of the VR or AR technology, they'll also be addicted to painkillers and seasickness tablets.
Yeah.
Right. Kev, we're going to move on. Otherwise, Kev's not going to talk about the game he wants to talk about.
You want to know what it's called?
Monster, whatever it is.
I'm glad to see you take good interest.
Is it called Monsterbag? Yes.
Yeah, it is called Monsterbag.
See?
It's a game that I've been playing, that I finished playing on the PlayStation Vita. It was a PlayStation Plus game a couple of months ago, maybe. And it's a really stylized 2D sort of cartoon aesthetic. What kind of genre is it? It's not even... It's kind of a puzzler, right? And the viewpoint is a queue of people. There's a whole bunch of stages, but the core mechanic is there's a line of people. It's all 2D. And you play as a little monster who's kind of satchel-sized and is like the best friend playmate of this girl, who right from the start of the game becomes sort of in peril, and you've just got to go and get her. She's just when the game starts, she goes off to school on the school bus, and then you're like, because she's gone and she's your best friend, and you want to just go and be with her, and like that is the core driving impulse of the main character, is just to go and be with his friend. And the mechanic is that you can basically do two things. You can use telepathy to move objects in the world, but only certain objects, and they're like color coded to let you know. And the other thing you can do is move between the people in the queue. And so the characters will be looking left and right, and you can only move to a character when they're not looking at you. But that's only true if they've got like pink eyes. Like if they've got black eyes, as in like the sort of pupil iris area.
These rules are starting to build up quite quickly for something you were like, this is super simple.
It is simple, right? You can, if somebody's looking at you and they've got colourful eyes, you can't go to them. If they don't have colourful eyes, then fine, do what you like.
Okay, so what you're going for.
And there's kind of two stages to the colour as well, because if I can't remember the exact colours they go, but like basically some of them give you one chance and then they kind of get more angry and then you get a second chance. And some of them go like straight into you will die if you go to it. And the deaths are surprisingly brutal. It's one of these games that like has this really kind of cutesy aesthetic and then like kills the character in quite horrible ways, which is always, fun if you like that sort of thing. And so the kind of core of the game is solving a way to get to the other end of the queue in order to get to your little friend. And it takes various forms from like the opening stage is basically there's a guy who you can't get past because he is an old man and it's a bus queue, right? The girl's gone to the bus to go to school or whatever, and there's a guy who's like lost his bus pass, and you actually find out it's under somebody's foot. In order to get it out from somebody's foot, you have to get somebody else some lemonade, so they'll drink it and then spill some, and then the other guy will get out of the way. And like it's kind of this whole sequence of tasks to get to the goal. But it's really charming, and the kind of cutscenes and the animation style is all quite fluid and quite nice. It's almost like a Cartoon Network cartoon, like that kind of stylized drawings. I don't know, I can't really explain it. But I played it all in. It didn't take very long. It's probably 2 or 3 hours total.
So nice and short.
Yeah, but and it's brilliant because the stages themselves you can pick up and do one in 5-10 minutes. So it's really good sort of mobile gaming in that respect. So when I was commuting to work, like you could easily get a level or two done in 10-minute train journey or whatever. And so playing through it, you get surprisingly attached to the characters. There's no dialogue the whole time, and the situation becomes increasingly kind of more bizarre. So it starts off in a waiting in a bus queue, and then quite quickly like the bus crashes, and then like the after the bus crashes like down a mountain or something, I can't remember, then you end up like being kidnapped by a tribe, and then this like giant eagle takes you away, and like it's just the whole thing just kind of gets more and more ridiculous. And I won't reveal after kind of where it goes, but by the end of the game, it was really quite moving and like a surprisingly emotional end to a little cartoon puzzler, and yeah, it's really kind of engages you with the completely dialogue free characters. But I would totally recommend playing it.
Well, what I like there
really
is that
nice.
they have taken an ostensibly quite simple puzzle game and then kind of piled an interesting story onto it, which is always kind of neat.
Yeah, and just it's just got like bundles of charm to it. Like the developers clearly loved it when they were making it. You know that it's just charming is the word. I'd really recommend it. And there's some puzzles. There's one puzzle that I had to look up because it was too hard. But it was like level 4. I was like, oh no, if I'm having to look it up here, then that's me done.
Yeah,
I just missed something obvious.
So Peter wants to talk about her story.
I'll be quick because I don't want to say too much because this is something that people really should experience for themselves.
You kind of can't say too much about her story.
Yeah. Has anybody else played it?
I played the demo at Rest.
Once I get paid,
I looked it up when you mentioned it in the email. Is it the iPhone app?
It's on iPhone. It's on PC as well.
On Steam.
Yeah. I looked it up when you said you've been playing it, and it looks intriguing.
It is intriguing. It's an FMV.
What's that stand for?
Full motion video.
Like Wing Commander 4.
Real people.
Yeah, it's real people. It's videos.
Like compared to the normal videos where you've only got
like Command and Conquer cuts.
Yeah. You know, some videos you've only got. But you know how in some videos you've only got a little bit of motion.
Precise and brilliant reference.
Yeah, that was good. I liked it.
But yeah, you know how in some videos you only get a little bit of motion. Here you've got all the motion.
The full spectrum of motion.
No motion is removed.
All the way from
video.
some to lots.
Yeah. So yeah, it's videos. It's all one actor sitting in front of. Well, yeah, I assume one actor. It might be twins sitting in front of a camera.
Twins.
It's a kind of a mystery game. So it starts up with it replicates an old desktop operating system from the mid-90s. I think it's set in like 94. And that's all you get. There's a couple of README files, there's a rubbish bin, and there's an open
neat
program.
But it's kind of neat that it's just that.
Yeah, there's an open program that is just like a search engine. And the premise is that you are investigating something that happened in 1994. And you've only got one side of the interview tape, so you don't have anything that the detectives ever say. You only have what the witness or what the character said. This character is a woman, I would say sort of around about 30-ish, and something has happened, and you kind of have to uncover what that is and how it happened. There's no real win condition. It just, once you get through, so it's all video clips. It's all little short video clips of her answering questions that have obviously been asked to her or reacting in some way. And it's all searchable. It's a searchable database. So you type into the search box what you want. So I think the first word that is already in the search box is murder. So you type in murder and it returns all the videos in which she says the word murder. And then you have to watch one. And maybe in one of those videos, she says somebody's name. So then you search for that name and you get new videos. And in this way, you kind of uncover the story. But certainly the way I did it, and I assume the way many people did it, because it's not a guided process at all. It's all based on your search terms. And if you sit down and search for the right word, you'll get the video that reveals most of what happened. You kind of have to watch 3 or 4 videos to get an idea of what happened. But if you search for the right words, you can just watch those 3 or 4 videos and then close the program and go away.
Yeah.
But
because I kind of got some of the story when I played the demo, like some of the end of it, by I managed to luck out and pick the right word.
Yeah, maybe you didn't, because it kind of leads you down a couple of different paths.
Thing is,
and you think you know what's happening.
Because I saw what is as far as I could tell, was the final video, or it seems like it's the final video. But you also don't, because I talked to Blair about it, because Blair's played the whole thing as well, and he was like, "No, your interpretation is completely wrong."
And what I think is really cool about the whole premise is like everyone's playthrough of it's going to be completely different. Like the story that they will build in their head and then deconstruct and then reconstruct in a slightly different way is going to be completely different for everyone who plays it.
So
I think that's really
at a certain point, it just pops up on the screen and it's a guy like in a chat window and he says, "Are you finished down there?" And if you say yes, then the game closes. And if you say no, then he says, "Well, okay, carry on." And I think that's kind of like when you get to like maybe seeing 2/3 or 3/4 of the videos, that pops up and you have the option to finish or not. But you can keep looking. And I uncovered the story and sort of learned everything that I would need to learn about it. And then continued searching for things and picking up other little bits and pieces from this woman's story. Sort of filling in bits of the backstory. And there were like 2 or 3 different like branches where I thought, oh, right, so that's what's going on. That's what we're dealing with here. And then it gets to a point you're like, oh, no, actually, that's not what we're dealing with. And it, like these, if those 2 videos, the one that, if the collection of like 3 or 4 videos that led me down one route to thinking I knew what was happening, and the collection of like 3 or 4 videos that actually told me something else that was happening, if they'd arrived at different moments in time, they still would have worked together. I just would have got those 2 threads of the story the wrong way round and assumed that the first one was wrong and the second one was right. And it's not until you sort of get to the kind of the end game of it, in as much as that exists, that you can kind of you build the story yourself with all these component parts. And it's not until you have enough of the component parts that you can see a big enough picture that you can sort of be aware of what's going on.
What I thought was quite a brave
clever
design decision was that once you have seen all the clips, it doesn't go, "So what happened was this." Like,
yeah, that's great.
It's still just you have to go, "I guess this is what happened," and we'll never really know for sure.
Yeah,
which is kind of powerful.
It is exactly like there is no hurrah, you've won. There is kind of a reveal that kicks in with the closing comment.
But see, I was talking to Blair about this, and here's my question: Is it a game? Because I would say that it is more of an interactive story, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think people say, "Oh, it's not a game," in a negative way. I don't think that's true at all. I think it is. If you were to consider like the choose your own adventure books, if you consider those a game, then this is a game. Like I think if you consider this to be, I think it's very similar to that. I think because you are left to explore it in whatever way you choose.
So to answer your basic question, no, I don't think this is a game. I think this is an interactive experience.
Yeah.
In order for me to think of something as a game, it has to have win conditions.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair.
And this doesn't have win conditions.
And the thing is as well that people say, "Oh, it's not a game," in a negative way, and I completely disagree with that. I think it can be a perfectly valid form of interactive media and a perfectly valid way to enjoy yourself and spend your time.
Yeah,
without it being a game.
I don't think this is a game. I think it is better than any game I've played so far this year.
Yeah.
In terms of the experience that it gave me.
Yeah, it
is one of the most interesting. I mean, and it has problems. I don't think, like, I've seen a lot of praise for this, and I think that some of it maybe goes a little bit over the top. Because it does have some issues. I think that the performance of the actress that's in it isn't great. It's a little bit hammy in places, and it's a little bit hard to believe, given some of the backstory that you're getting, that woman would still be that kind of person. And that's maybe my own preconceptions or whatever. But I think that this is as an interactive experience, as something that, as a story, I think that this makes some really, really interesting decisions, and it sticks by them and it sells them completely, and it doesn't ever seem to be nervous about it. And I think it costs £5 on Steam. It might even be cheaper on the App Store.
Yeah.
And it's, in order to get enough of the story, you're looking at maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. So it's more like one of those films that you see where it's sort of all chopped up. I can't think of any examples now, obviously, but where
Memento.
Yeah, it's more like that, in that you're getting little pieces of the story, but it's something that you're just experiencing as it goes on. And the mechanic, the way you get to experience that is that you just type in different search terms, and you can totally fudge it with random words, and you might hit lucky.
Yeah.
There are a couple of, because once I'd finished it and I'd got because you get achievements that pop up for the amount of videos that you've seen, and I had got the 75% of videos in the story seen, and I thought, well, I've seen loads of videos since then, so I must be really near the end, so I want to see them all. So I went and sort of looked up guides and stuff, and there are ways of just watching all the videos if you want to.
Yeah.
So
I think to do that would deny yourself the experience, though. I think like you'd ruin the game just by kind of watching it. What was I? Oh yes, it was there are a couple of places. There are a couple of sequences of videos that you can only get to in a very specific way, and it's probably not a way that you're going to just try. Right.
Because it's search terms, so it works like a search engine. And there are a couple of things where you have to put it into inverted, like in quotation marks. And it's just a single word in quotation marks gets you to these like 4 or 5 videos.
Okay.
And nothing else I typed into the game was in quotation marks.
I've read that there's like a grid or some visualization of all of the videos, and they change color or something once you've seen it, so you can kind of get a view of your overall progress. Is that true?
Not really. Your search terms return, like if you search for something really obvious, like the person's name that she's talking about, that's like the central character of the story. If you search for that, you'll get like, there are maybe 60 videos that relate to that, but the search term restricts it to the first 5.
Yeah, I see. I think that's kind of a good way to
and the
place
videos
some limitations on you, because otherwise it would be far too easy.
Well, it means that you have to search for then more specific terms or terms that link that word and another word.
Exactly.
But all the videos also have a little icon on them, so that if you haven't watched them, it's easy to see that you haven't watched them.
Yeah, right. I think the thing is, if you didn't have that limitation, it would either be, actually, I'm not sure, it would either be far too easy or far too hard, because it would either be far too easy to kind of pick a good broad term and find sort of the videos you need. Well, or it would be too hard because you'd have so much.
There's too many results for all searches. Yeah.
There is a way to completely cheese it and just get it to display the videos in chronological order.
Oh, really?
Is
That's
it
interesting?
Yeah.
Is that like a cheat?
Kind of yeah, kind of. It's more like, it's not really a cheat, but it's a trick that maybe wouldn't be obvious to begin with. But once you know how to do it, it's like, well, yeah, of course that works.
Yeah.
And there is a way, once you've played enough of the game to get the chat window to have the option of finishing the game, then it rolls the credits, and at the end of the credits it basically gives you a way to see more than 5 videos at once. I think it goes up to 15,
right,
which makes it much easier, because then your search term that has previously excluded 10 videos now shows all of them. So it just means that your searches don't have to be as specific in order to get to those videos. So yeah, I don't think, like in the traditional terms, I don't think this is a game. If you've ever played a video game released on any platform and thought, it's not really a game, is it? Then Her Story is not a game to you. I don't think of it as a game. I think of it as an interactive experience. And I think that is sometimes even more powerful than playing a game. And I certainly, for a number of minor faults or minor issues that I had with it, I think that it was one of the best interactive experiences I've had this year.
Pretty cool.
It is really interesting,
and it's only a £5, and you spend you'd spend more than that going to the cinema to watch shit film.
I would rather play it on
terrible people in the same.
You would, because you choose Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I would rather play it on Steam than I would on iPhone. I think it just seems to be a better experience, like on your PC.
I chose to play it on PC basically because I thought the keyboard would just be easier. If I'm typing a lot of words, I don't want to do that on a touchscreen keyboard.
So
I picked to play it on Steam.
Yeah.
But I think it totally works on iPad if you want to play it on there, if you want to play it in bed or whatever. It's like I say, 2-3 hours long. I think it also is probably better to play it in one continuous experience. And I've seen a number of people that have started like writing mind maps and lists of search
I
terms.
see, that's what I think
I
is
kind of
really
imagine getting
interesting
like one
about
of those detectives boards with like string connecting stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
You could totally do that. I chose not to, and I made a conscious decision not to because I kind of wanted it to be vague, and I wanted to piece the story together in my own head and make mistakes and stumble over it rather
But
than have it all
if you want to do that, you can.
noted.
That's a completely valid option.
That works.
Yeah. Right.
So everyone should go and try it at least. It's only a £5.
I've just downloaded it. It's $3.99 on iOS.
$3.99. See, it's a bargain.
Anyway, let's do question time.
Question time.
Benjamin Reed says, "Hello all. Question: Do you enjoy Let's Plays? Surprised they've become so popular as gaming is not often a massive activity, which I'm slightly confused as to what that means. But
gaming is a fairly massive activity.
Yeah,
but
that's what I would say.
I have never.
What was the question?
Do you enjoy Let's Play videos? Do you know what they are?
Oh, right, yeah.
I enjoy
explain
some.
what they are for those of us who.
So those of you who don't know, it's basically where people just play a video with commentary, play a video game, and then they have commentary over the top of it. Sometimes it's cut, sometimes it's not. I think that the broader definition of a Let's Play is that you don't cut it; it's just you playing it.
I think the purists would say that it's a complete playthrough of a video game with somebody talking their way.
Yeah, it doesn't have to necessarily be a complete playthrough because you can be like, just here's the first half an hour.
I'm not overly keen on them, but the one that I've watched very, very little, but the one that I did enjoy was someone had put together a compilation of 3 YouTubers reacting and playing to The Last of Us. And I really enjoyed watching that because I'd already played and completed The Last of Us, so I knew obviously the story and stuff. But it was really good to see the reactions of people playing it for the first time because it almost allowed me to relive those moments through their reactions. So yeah, I think you had PewDiePie, a woman and a Japanese looking guy. I don't know their names, but they were playing, and like I say, their reactions to those big moments in the game it was really interesting to watch, and you got some of the emotion back from the first time you played that game.
I think I enjoy them if there's something like a little bit different, a little bit interesting like that. But I think the young male playing a game and making stupid noises and shouting over it, that's just not for me. Like, it's incredibly
popular.
Rich
though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just not for me. But yeah, certainly if people are showing something that I'm interested in or having intelligent discourse over the top of it, then yeah, I quite enjoy them.
So I've never watched one, right? But this week and the last week, I've been listening to an audio podcast, which is essentially a let's play of the Mutants and Masterminds role-playing game, so like Dungeons and Dragons, but with superheroes. Which is like probably the geekiest thing I've ever done. But
and you've LARPed.
Yeah, exactly. And I've literally LARPed.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, but I find it kind of interesting because the nature of those games is that you, as a player of the game, have to decide, like, within obviously the constraints of the mechanics, but ideas-wise, it's all you. And so you kind of are thinking as well, like, what you would do if you were in that situation, because you're there alongside them, listening along. And I was kind of listening to it from research because I am GMing a game of Mutants and Masterminds soon. So I wanted to get some ideas and see how, like, people who knew how to play the game were playing it and that sort of thing. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it because it's pretty boring, but it was quite interesting as well. It's so long, like RPGs especially. Like, this was their first session and the podcast was like 4 hours. So yeah, that's episode 1 I've listened to over the last 2 weeks. So yeah, that's my input. Let's Plays in terms of like YouTube videos of people playing games doesn't really interest me. I think like what Lewis was saying is actually quite interesting. Like it's kind of cool to watch somebody doing something that you loved doing, and you know what they're about to experience, and so you can kind of go, oh, you're gonna,
but it's the same with like films. Like when I watch a film that either scares me or moves me emotionally or whatever, and I get really invested in it, I'm desperate to show it to other people because part of not only do I want to re-watch the film, but I get a genuine buzz out of watching it with people that that emote to it as well, and I get a buzz off of feeding off of their reactions to it, and I think I did it. Inception. I paid for my brother to come to the cinema the next day. I've done it with things like Paranormal Activity. So, just watching people feed off of things like that.
You saying that has reminded me. I have seen a Let's Play. I saw one where people were doing a virtual reality horror game. I don't know what the game was, but that was kind of
virtual reality one.
Yeah, and that was kind of funny because you got to see people be really scared and got to kind of also see them in this kind of zone where they're present in the game, but they're just in a room with a thing on, but they're like, oh, I don't like it, and being funny and scared and stuff. So yeah, I've seen that as well.
All right, next question. Joanna says, Chris, what did you wish for on your birthday? Nothing. I didn't have a cake with candles, and I believe that is a requirement.
Ah,
so I had a cake. Don't worry. Okay. I had a tray of blondies. It was pretty awesome.
Blondies.
Blondies are lovely.
What makes is that just white chocolate rather than milk
white chocolate brownie?
Not quite. It's kind of lighter than the brownie as well, but it's nice. And they kind of have a slight. The ones that I get kind of have a slight crust on the outside, so they kind of don't fall apart as much as a brownie does. Jamas also says, do you think Hideo Kojima will appear on Kickstarter with something of his own? No, I think he doesn't need Kickstarter. I think he's Hideo fucking Kojima. And if he went to just about any company in the world that isn't Konami, they'd be like, yes, please, here, have money.
I think he will. I think Kojima, who I saw in the airport in LA, by the way.
Cool.
I think that he...
Clang! Sorry, you dropped your name there.
I think you're right, Chris. I think he could stroll into any publisher in the world and say, I want to make this game. And they'd go, well, then here's $100 million. Let's do it.
Yeah.
But they'd say, let's do it, but in this way. And I think that's...
Yeah, I think that now those big publishers are going to go, well, yeah, but let's get all the fucking free marketing that Kickstarter will give us. So let's do it on Kickstarter. The way that Sony did with Shenmue 3. Because
he will strike out on his own, he'll kickstart something without the backing of a publisher to go you've seen what a publisher and me can do when we're together. That's all my ideas. These publishers have been arseholes and kicked me out, but let's still make the cool stuff. What do you say, crowd?
That's kind of it. He'll either do it himself, but I mean, there'll be no shortage of people willing to invest in that man. But I think that the way you do that now is through a crowdfunding service that gives a wider range of people the ability to invest, and at the same time, a big company can either be there from the start, the way Sony was with Shenmue, or they can come in later on, the way many games have gone to Kickstarter and been successfully funded, and then a publisher said, well, if you've got an audience already invested for that, then we'll also give you this big wheelbarrow full of cash, and you can make it a bit better, and we'll publish it for you.
Mm-hmm. I've just noticed that Peter's Skype icon, which is a sort of blue sort of hexagon, don't know what you call it, just abstract. It's kind of nice.
Geometric pattern.
But it's basically the same blue as the one that Skype gives you in a sort of robot mouth sort of way. Like when you say stuff, it illuminates, and that coupled with the fact that it's the same color makes your icon look so much like a robot when you're talking. Just because it's slightly like getting slightly bigger and smaller because the colors are the same. It looks really it looks like a 1990s robot mouth or something. I don't
know. What else have we got?
Thanks, Chris.
I love the fact that Chris just moved straight on.
Keep going.
Well,
power through. Jamas also says, again, third question from Jamas. Peter, how is life without TSA? Have you missed him?
Have I missed who?
Germanos.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
so
mean,
much.
I actually...
God, yeah.
I
so believable.
Oh, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatevs.
Maybe the have you missed him was have we missed Pete?
Oh, no, he says just missed me. So.
Oh, right, yeah, probably not then.
TSA is an awful lot of work.
It is.
An awful place.
Also true.
So I don't miss that. I don't miss the extra workload and the extra stress and pressure that comes with being responsible for something like that. So I don't miss that. what I do miss is the people behind the scenes and the sort of daily interaction with the team. And I miss doing the podcast. I miss like just basically getting to mess around and have a bit of fun with it all. Because now I have to be serious and work.
Yeah.
Do
That's a good answer.
things.
And we miss him too.
Yeah, we do.
No, you don't. Nobody misses me.
Because we didn't have to do as much work. Both Craig Hattle and Stuart Hattle want to talk about Rocket League. Neither of us have played that. It's on PlayStation Plus though, so maybe we should try and play it.
Rocket League.
Not neither of us, none of us. And
I've seen it played. It looks really cool. It's a sequel to Supersonic Acrobatic.
Yeah, it is. So we should definitely give it a
cars.
go.
Okay.
I just want to know what are our thoughts on Trackmania coming to next gen. Looks cool. Trackmania looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, Trackmania is a PC game. I don't think it works on consoles.
Yeah, I think I'll have issues with it. I also think it looks pretty sweet. Like Trackmania just in general looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's crazy, but I think the Trackmania only works if you run your own batshit server that has its like the Giant Bomb guys had their own.
Yeah, it had just crazy music on it and
dubstep
stuff.
music
Yeah, that's
constantly
amazing.
and was just mental, and that's kind of what Trackmania is.
Yeah.
And I don't think unless consoles can find a way of replicating that sort of user created weirdness, I don't think it'll be the same game.
And then also, I'd guess.
Hey, speaking of user created weirdness, sorry, I've got a question for question time for Pete. Did you see any more of Media Molecule's Dreams thing than what was shown on stage?
No, I only saw them on stage. Unfortunately,
that is user created weirdness. Isn't
looks good though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks really cool, but I have no idea what it is.
Anyway,
well, that's the worry.
That's the point in it.
Finally, Adam guessed the question, but it's about Jurassic World, which we're going to talk about next week. So we'll save that for next week. This is episode 184 of the TheSixthAxis podcast. As per usual, I've been your host, Kris Lipscomb. You can get me on Twitch as How Pro. You can get Kevin 100. You can get Lewis Caston. You can get Peter at Colossal Blue. If you like this podcast, then go subscribe on iTunes. Subscribe over on SoundCloud. SoundCloud.com/TheSixthAxis. Go to YouTube where you can get us as the TheSixthAxis podcast. You can go to TheSixthAxis.com. You can go to Stitcher. Just a bunch of ways of doing it. It's great. We'd love to hear from you as well. So you can email us at podcast@TheSixthAxis.com, or you can tweet us at TSA Podcast. Thank you for coming back for my birthday, Peter.
Or you can get us on Grindr and Tinder.
No, you can't. Thanks for coming back, Peter.
You're welcome anytime.
It's lovely.
Invite me back more often.
No.
Door's always open.
No.
Bastard.
Except when it's locked.
Thanks, Kev.
And bolted shut. But that's going to do it for this week's podcast.
I've got a live feed your house. So
anyway, that's going to do it for this week's podcast. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Bye and that.
Goodbye.
The Sixth Axis podcast.